guys, it's Chris from Highline Guitars, and you're watching another episode of From the Luthier's Workbench. This episode is the second part in my series on how I create a 3D guitar body. And in the last episode, I used Adobe Illustrator to create a full-size, full-scale, two-dimensional drawing. And what I'm going to do in this episode is I'm going to bring that drawing into Rhinoceros 3D and use those elements to create the 3D model. And if you haven't seen the first episode, I'll put a link up here so you can go back and check out that episode and get caught up on the process that I'm using up to this point. So without further ado, let's jump in and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is open up Rhinoceros 3D, and then I'll create a new model and select the perspective view because that's what I like to work in. Now I'm going to import the guitar body for 3D that I created in my last episode. And this is how it appears when it's imported into the 3D space. It's still a 2D drawing, but you can see what it looks like. Then I'm going to select the outer box, and I'm going to use this to create a surface which I will then use to build the carved top shape for this guitar, sort of like a Les Paul. And when I do this, I'm going to patch the surface. And the options that I have, I'm not going to explain these in detail, but what they basically do is they divide the surface that I'm going to create into cubes or boxes. And those will be used later on in creating the carved top shape. So I'm just going to go with the settings you see here, and when I click preview, you can see how it divides up that surface into those boxes. So I'll hit OK, and then what I can do is switch from the wireframe to a rendered view, and you can see that dark gray is the skin that was formed in as the surface. So now what I'm going to do is switch on the control points, and these are points where the lines of the boxes intersect. And what I can do is I can move those as you see here. Now I'm still working in 2-dimension and that I'm moving these points on the X and Y axis. But what I'm going to be doing is positioning these points so that later on when I create my carved top shape, it's going to follow the sort of the hourglass shape that I'm trying to create here. And this is something that is similar to what you would see on a Les Paul or a PRS guitar body. But I'll just continue to work these points, moving them back and forth until I have the positioning pretty much where I would like it to be. And it takes a little bit of experimentation and some trial and error and a little bit of experience to get it to work the way you want it to. But once I'm satisfied, I can then begin the process of extruding or manipulating on the Z-axis to get that carved top shape. And it may not make a lot of sense now, but I think you'll see in a minute here. And as I mentioned before, I'm still working on a 2-dimensional surface. So if you look at it in perspective, you can see that the surface is still flat. I'm just moving those points around on the X and Y axis. And then once I'm satisfied with their positioning, I'll select all the center points so that I can move those points on the Z-axis in order to generate my carved top shape. Now I realize that probably doesn't make a lot of sense right now, but bear with me and you'll start to see how this works. It's really a pretty simple way to create a carved top guitar shape. And once I have all these points selected, I will change to my perspective view. And when I'm in the perspective view, I can select the blue arrow and I'll type in 0.625 inches, and that's going to raise the center up that distance. And I can look at it and decide whether or not that's the amount that I want. I think I'm going to back it off though, and I'm just going to do a half an inch, 0.5 inches. And that gives me a nice subtle curve. And you can start to see how this carved top shape comes together. And it comes together very quickly. This is a really simple way to do it. So then what I'll do next is I'll turn off the points, and I can actually select a shade rendering so that I can see it without the lines and decide if that's actually what I want. And I'm pretty happy with this, so I'll stick with it. And now what I need to do is raise this up into its final position. So I'm going to type in 1.25 inches, and that raises the edge of this box 1.25 inches above the z-axis 0 plane. And that actually means the center, which was raised a 1/2 inch, is 1.75 inches, which is the overall thickness of the body. Now the next step is to select the body's perimeter shape, and I'm going to extrude that up 1.75 inches. And then I can select that extrusion and use that to cut or trim the top, and I'll just trim away the excess. Then I'll select the carved top itself, and I'll use that to trim the excess away from the sides. And we can now see we have the basic shape of the guitar body along with the carved top. Now I can roll to the back of the guitar, and I'm going to select the shapes for the neck pocket, the pickup pockets, as well as the holes for the control pots and switch, and the string through holes for the guitar bridge, as well as the 3 holes for mounting the bridge. And with those elements selected, I'm going to raise them up to be level with the top surface of the guitar. So I'll click that blue arrow and type in 1.75 inches, and that moves everything up. With these elements in position, I can start carving them out by first selecting the pickup pockets. And what I'm going to do is extrude those down into the body, and I'm going to extrude those down about 0.875 inches. And then I'm going to move the curves that form those pockets down to the bottom. So again, I'm going to move these down minus 0.875 inches, and they'll be used to form the bottom of those pockets later on. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the neck pocket. I'll select the perimeter shape. But what I need to do is figure out exactly how deep to make it. Now I know that my neck shaft is going to have an overall thickness of 1 inch. The fretboard is going to be 1/4 inch thick, and then the fret wire is going to be 0.047 inches. So altogether, that's 1.297 inches. And since my bridge height is 0.3 inches, I'll subtract that from this amount, and what I get is 0.997. That's how deep I need to make the neck pocket. So once I figure that out, I can go back into my 3D model and extrude that pocket down minus 0.997 inches into the body. And then again, I'll move the perimeter curve down to the bottom to form the bottom of that pocket in a minute. So I'll knock that down minus 0.997 as well. Now I can, at this point, I can pretty much ignore these holes for the control cavities. I'll deal with those a little bit later. So what I'm going to do now is select the holes for the string through holes in the guitar body, and I will extrude those down all the way through the body, so minus 0.175 inches all the way through. Then I'll delete the circles because I don't need them anymore. Then I'll select the holes for the screws, which mount the bridge, and I'm going to extrude those down into the body only 1 inch. And then I'm going to move the curves, the forming curves, down 1 inch because they'll be used to make the bottom of those screw holes. You'll see in a minute what I'm talking about. Probably doesn't make a lot of sense at this point. Now I can select my pickup pockets, and I'm going to use my trim tool, and I will click inside of it, and that deletes the surface where it covers the pocket shape. Then I can select that curve I had moved to the bottom of the pocket and patch it. That forms the bottom of the pocket. And I'll do the same thing here with the neck pickup. Select that curve and patch it as well. The same process is used on the neck pocket, I will just select the extrusion, and then I will grab my trim tool and click inside, and that deletes that part of the surface. And then I will patch the forming curve that I moved to the bottom so that I have a bottom of the pocket. And what I need to do is get rid of that front curved part. So I'm going to explode the pocket curve, and then I can select just the front part of the pocket and delete it. However, the body part of that curve still is there. So I'm going to select the bottom and the sides of the pocket, and then I'll grab my trim tool and click on that, and that deletes it. So you can see now I have my pocket formed. Now if I zoom in, you can see that there is, because of the curved top, there is some of the pocket extending above it. So I'll select the surface and then use that with my trim tool to trim away that excess. And I'll need to do the same thing on the neck pocket as well. And then as I zoom in on where the string through holes are, you can see I'll need to drill those through the surface. So I'm going to select the string through holes, the extrusions that I formed earlier. And then I will grab the trim tool and click inside each one, and that cuts away that part of the surface. So I have the string through holes and then the holes for the bridge mounting screws. And you can see they go all the way through, and at least the string through holes go all the way through. Now what I need to do is I need to form the bottom of the screw holes. So I'm going to select each of the forming circle, and then I will patch them. Obviously, since the string holes go all the way through the body, they don't need to have a patched bottom. But again, because of the curvature of that top surface, I need to delete the excess of the holes from the top surface so that it's flush. And there, that part is now complete. So at this stage, it's starting to really take shape. Now what I need to do is select the perimeter shape of the guitar body at the bottom, and I'm going to patch that entire area. And then I will begin to form the control cavity. And I'm going to start by selecting that outer curve, and I'm going to extrude that 0.15 inches, which is also the thickness of the control cavity cover that I would make later on. And then I'm going to move that forming curve up 0.15 inches because it will form the bottom of that portion of the cavity. This won't make sense yet, but it will in a minute. Now I'm going to select the actual control cavity shape and move that up 0.15. And then to extrude its depth, I'm going to look at it from the front view because I want to extrude it to a depth that doesn't exceed the area of the curved top. So I will extrude this about 1 inch, and that's a good position for it. And then I'm going to move the forming curve up 1 inch as well, and then I'll patch that so that it forms the bottom of the control cavity itself. Now I can select the circles for the control pot and switches, and then I will extrude those down into the body until they come into contact with the control cavity itself. Now I don't need the circles, so I'll just delete those. And now you can start to see how this is going to work. I'll select that outer shape and then use my trim tool to delete the portions of the bottom surface that I don't need. And once I have completed that, you can see now where the control cavity cover will sit. And then I'll select the holes for the string through, because even though I drilled those through the top surface, I still need to drill them through the back surface as well. So I'll just select each one of those extrusions. And then I will use my trim tool and click inside each one, and that completes the string through holes. They now pass all the way through the body. As you can see here, as I move the body around, you can see all the way through it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these extrusions that I created for the control pot and switches, and I'm going to delete the portions of the surface inside of those holes. So you can see now they drill all the way through. And I'll do that with each one. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the surface and use my trim tool to delete the excess extrusion. So now everything is trimmed nice and flush. And at this stage, we essentially have a completed guitar body. But there's some more things that I'd like to do. Since I went to the trouble to make a carve top, it kind of would make sense to do some comfort carving into the back of the guitar body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a paraboloid, and that's going to be used to form an easy access feature at the front of the guitar where the neck intersects the body. So I'll create this paraboloid, and this is the sort of thing that takes a little bit of trial and error to get it just right. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to position this at the bottom of the guitar body so that the paraboloid extends up into the back of the guitar. And I'll go to a top view and I'll begin the process of positioning, sizing, and shaping this paraboloid to give me exactly what I want for that comfort contour, right there where the neck is going to be inserted into the body. So it takes a little bit of tweaking to get the shape just right and to get it positioned where it should be. And then once I've got it where I want it and have the height of it and everything so that I know it's going to work right, I can select the paraboloid and then use my trim tool to delete the portions of the body that I want to remove. Then I'll select the back and the sides of the guitar body itself, the trim tool once again, and delete the excess portion of the paraboloid. Then I'll delete the perimeter outline since I don't need it anymore, and here you can see how I have formed a nice comfort contour for that front part of the body, so there will be nice easy access to the upper frets of the neck once it's installed into the body. Now I'm going to make another paraboloid, and this will be done pretty much in the same way as the one I just did. However, I'm keeping in mind that this one is going to be used to form a belly relief. So I'll move that down into position, go to the top view, and once again I'm going to go through the somewhat tedious process of positioning, shaping, rotating, adjusting the height in order to get it exactly where I want it on this guitar body. And as I do this, I have to be conscientious of where it comes into play with that front contour because I don't want them to intersect. And then once I have this shape pretty well defined and where I want it to be, I can then use that shape. And what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to select the side and the back, and then I'm going to use my trim tool to delete the portion of the paraboloid that I don't want. Then I'll select the portion of the paraboloid that remains and use that to trim away the back and sides of the guitar body. And here you can see the finished contour carve. So there you have it, a finished 3D model of a guitar body that I can cut on my CNC machine. Okay, well that concludes my two-part series on how I create a 3D guitar body. And what I plan to do is in a future episode, perhaps the next episode, is I'm going to take this 3D model and I'm going to use it to establish the tool paths and write the G code that I need to actually carve this on my CNC machine. So until the next episode, I hope you have a great weekend, a great week ahead, and we'll see you soon.